A question of justice. The Taijimen tax case in Taiwan. Taiwan is known as a beacon of democracy in a region plagued by dictators. Yet, in 2020, thousands took to the streets to protest serious violations of human rights on the island. They were members of Taijimen, a Taiwanese spiritual movement based on esoteric Taoism. It promotes a holistic development of mind and body, rooted in the practice of Qigong, including teachings about martial arts and other traditional techniques. Thousands of Taijimen members regularly bring culture to the world through events that have been praised by political authorities, both internationally and in Taiwan. Taijimen Qigong Academy was founded in 1966 by Dr. Hong Daozi, who is also well known throughout the world for his promotion of world peace and dialogue between religions and cultures.
I could see Taijimen having a very, very positive effect for Taiwanese society.
Dr. Hong's path as a spiritual teacher has not been easy. Religious liberty is something Taiwan has achieved through a bumpy road only. In 1996, largely for political reasons, the government cracked down on religious and spiritual movements, accused of supporting opposition political parties. The campaign also targeted Taijimen, although it had not taken political sides. On December 19, 1996, Taijimen facilities were raided, and Hong was arrested. He and his wife's assets, including private holdings not connected with Taijimen, were frozen. These actions were carried out upon orders of Taipei court prosecutor Ho Guanren, who developed a personal vendetta against Hong and Taijimen, and was later recognized by Taiwan's Control Yuan, the body entrusted with checking illegal activities by public officials. Prosecutor Ho promoted a self-help association of so-called victims of Taijimen, which was found by the Taipei District Court to be a false organization whose leaders had created bogus claims. The court also found that there were no victims. On April 15, 1997, Prosecutor Ho indicted Hong, who was freed on bail on May 26, his wife and 3 Taijimen members for operating a fraudulent cult. Ho even accused Hong of raising goblins, something which is totally foreign to Taijimen's practices. From his public statements, it looked like Prosecutor Ho was the one who really believed in goblins. Between April and June 1997, Prosecutor Ho wrote to state and local administrations ordering the dissolution of Taijimen, and even that water and electricity supplies to Taijimen facilities in Taipei be cut. The Ministry of the Interior and local governments later annulled these orders and declared them illegal, as no decision had yet been rendered against Hong. In fact, Prosecutor Ho's case eventually collapsed. On September 25, 2003, Dr. Hong and his co-defendants were acquitted of all charges by the Taipei District Court. On December 13, 2005, the High Court of Taipei confirmed on appeal the first-degree verdict favorable to Taijimen. On July 13, 2007, the Criminal Division of the Supreme Court of Taiwan pronounced the final acquittal of Taijimen defendants, declaring them innocent of all charges. Compensation for the wrongful detention was given to Hong and his co-defendants. However, a byproduct of Prosecutor Ho's ill-fated actions remained. Instigated by Prosecutor Ho, the National Tax Bureau accused Hong of tax evasion and issued tax bills for the years 1991 through 1996. What was the basis of these claims? As it happens in most spiritual movements, members of Taijimen, who are called Dizi, offer money as a gift to Hong, whom they recognize as their shifu, or master. These gifts are included in so-called red envelopes. The National Tax Bureau claimed that the content of the red envelopes should not be considered as a gift, but as a tuition fee members pay for receiving training in a so-called cram school, meaning a school where students engage in intensive study of a subject for a short period of time. Gifts are not taxable, while cram schools' tuition fees are. In Taiwan, there are many Qigong and martial arts organizations, and none has ever been taxed for gifts given to their masters. The Ministry of Education in Taiwan, which has direct regulatory authority over cram schools, declared 3 times, from 1997 through 2000, that Taijimen is not a cram school. Taijimen is indeed not a cram school. In 1999 and 2000, both Taiwan's finance minister and deputy finance minister publicly stated that since the Taijimen tax prosecution derived from a criminal case, if Hong and his co-defendants will be acquitted in the criminal court, then the tax claims would be withdrawn as well. However, this did not happen. Hong and his co-defendants were acquitted of all criminal charges. Yet the National Tax Bureau continued to claim that the money in the red envelopes was a disguised cram school tuition fee and maintained the tax bills. Note that the 2007 Supreme Court decision that acquitted Hong and his co-defendants from all criminal charges explicitly stated that they were not guilty of tax evasion. In 2002, following instructions by the Ministry of Finances, the National Tax Bureau conducted a random survey among Taijimen Dizi to determine whether they regarded their contributions as gifts or tuition fees. All the 206 Dizi who responded indicated that they considered their contributions as gifts. However, the Tax Bureau declared that only 9 respondents had clearly indicated that their contributions were gifts. The statement was false, but the Tax Bureau refused to release the answers to the survey. Based on the Bureau's false statement about the survey, the Ministry of Finances refused to rectify the tax bills against Hong and Taijimen. They appealed to administrative courts, and Taiwan's Supreme Administrative Court ruled in favor of Taijimen on August 6, 2009. On July 17, 2010, the manipulation of the survey was exposed at a public hearing in the Legislative Yuan, i.e. Taiwan's parliament. Later, the National Tax Bureau agreed that a new open survey should be carried out. This happened only in 2011, and results were disclosed in 2012, revealing that there had been 7,401 respondents, and all had answered that they regarded the content of the red envelopes as gifts. The National Tax Bureau had promised to be guided by the results of the survey, yet they reacted by proposing to consider 50% of the money received in the red envelopes as gifts and 50% as tuition fees. This was obviously not consistent with the unequivocal results of the survey. Taijimen thus started another long journey through Taiwanese courts, supported by legislators and other public authorities, and by human rights organizations throughout the world. From this long and painful struggle, they emerged victorious. In 2018, the Supreme Administrative Court ruled that the content of the red envelopes should be treated as gifts rather than as tuition fees. The basis of the 20-year persecution of Taijimen by the National Tax Bureau had finally been removed. Unfortunately, this was not the end of Taijimen's tribulations. The National Tax Bureau had initially alleged tax evasion for 6 years, from 1991 to 1996. After the 2018 decision by the Supreme Administrative Court, it agreed to reduce the tax bills for the years 1991, 1993, 1994, 1995, and 1996 to zero. But based on the claim that for 1992, a decision had been rendered by the Supreme Administrative Court in 2006 and was final, it maintained the tax bill for 1992, including interest. Both the Dizi and the public opinion in Taiwan understood that this was a political vendetta after Taijimen had publicly proved the National Tax Bureau wrong. Clearly, what happened in 1992 was not different from what happened in the other years, and justice would have mandated to deal with it in the same way. Patently wrong decisions can always be revised if justice has to be served. The tax authorities treated Taijimen as a cram school and taxed it accordingly. Since the finding of fact was incorrect, the application of law was wrong as well. Therefore, the incorrect court order should not be executed. For example, when you clearly know that a person is wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death, you should not execute the person. You should try to correct the mistake and uphold justice. If the person is killed as per the sentence, then he is unjustly killed by the government. Now that the tax authorities have admitted their mistakes and the criminal court has ordered state compensation, it is unjust for the government to auction the assets of Taiji Men's leader. If it does, that is theft of his property. No appeal by Taiwanese or international politicians, scholars, or human rights organizations stopped this vendetta. Not even courts of law were heard. On May 5th and July 23, 2020, Taipei High Administrative Court wrote twice to the National Tax Bureau of the Central Area, asking them to treat 1992 as the other years were treated. All this was to no avail. In August 2020, properties belonging to Hong were seized and auctioned, then confiscated after the auction was not successful, despite massive peaceful street protests in Taiwan and appeals by international NGOs. It may seem that this is a battle about money, but it isn't for Taiji Men. They spent in legal fees only, in 24 years of struggles, more than they would have paid had they settled with the National Tax Bureau. Insisting on conscience and justice, they did not settle. By settling, they would have admitted that they had been guilty of tax evasion, something that is both against their principles and factual truth. On the other hand, we can suspect that it really was about money for some bureaucrats. In cases of alleged tax evasion, they get a bonus on the tax bills, and some did get the bonus for the 1992 Taiji Men tax bill. It is not surprising that scholars and human rights activists from all over the world raised their voice in support of Taiji Men. Theirs is not a minor case hanging on technicalities. It has widespread implications, both for Taiwan and the world. Significantly, already in 2005, the Control Yuan had listed the Taiji Men case as one of the most important human rights incidents where it had to intervene. Taiwan is in a difficult moment in its history. Taiwan needs international friends, and it also benefits from its well-deserved public image of a country where, unlike in mainland China, human rights and freedom of belief are respected. The Taiji Men case is a relic of a bygone era, when religious liberty was still not fully respected in Taiwan. The petty tax vendetta against Taiji Men, however, raises doubts on whether the problems of the past have been fully overcome and is detrimental to Taiwan's international image. The fact that Taiji Men's properties were seized and auctioned on the eve of the establishment of Taiwan's National Human Rights Commission on August 1st, 2020, was an unfortunate coincidence, which contributed to the impression that the official rhetoric is at odds with the behavior of some rogue bureaucrats. The case has also international implications. It is a perpetual temptation for politicians and others in power to persecute religious and spiritual minorities that they, for whatever reason, do not like through the misuse of the tax system. The European Court of Human Rights is just one among several authorities that have ruled repeatedly that tax bills cannot be used to discriminate against religious and spiritual movements a government does not approve of.
The European Court of Human Rights stated in a ruling in 2011 in the case Association of Jehovah's Witnesses versus France that through its tax administration, France had unduly harassed a group that had been illegitimately put on a blacklist of so-called harmful cults. The court went to explain that monetary offers made by devotees to their spiritual leaders or organizations are obviously gifts. The court concluded that considering donations as taxable payments is a typical way that some governments use and misuse to discriminate against movements that they don't like. But this is illegal under international human rights law.
I think that it is as bad, if not worse, to allow an injustice to continue as it is to create the injustice in the first place. And that is what's happened here with Taiji Men.
Taiji men are not fighting for themselves only. They raise a crucial question of justice, freedom of belief, and human rights. In this sense, we are all Taiji men. The injustice perpetrated against them is injustice against all of us. Their victory will be our victory.